Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Everything ready. So the first thing that I want to share with you is a great way to actually use Mapillary to edit OpenStreetMap. And what we're going to do is take a higher level look first, and then we'll look at how you can do this yourself. But one of the YouthMappers projects we've been working on globally is editing OpenStreetMap in order to add utility poles in Sierra Leone. So it's an early stage project. But the idea is that we can find utility poles such as these that are detected in photos contributed by Mapillary users. And then we can find a way to make sure they're added on OpenStreetMap to map the power network. So in cases like this, what happens is, we'll skip to another one. What happens is we can go through a tool like this one called Pic for Review. And the URL here is picforreview.pavier.info. And this one allows you to set up what we call a mission that involves reviewing something in the photo to see if it's on the map. So in this case, it presents a series of photos on the map here, the blue markers, and that's the same as the photos in this gallery. You can see the direction the photo is facing, and it's asking us if we can see the utility pole that's at this red point in the picture here. So this can really depend. Like this one we can see is in the middle of this parking area. There's this one next to the road. I'm not sure if it's the same, so I can say skip if I'm not sure. This one, it's detecting a street lamp, but it's not a utility pole, so I'll say skip. And looks like this one, we'd see probably this utility pole right here back in the trees. And it looks like the location is a little bit off. This one's probably not the ideal one to edit either, so I'll skip that. But when we see one that we actually find, so here's a good example again. Let's get a nice photo. As we skip through these photos, we'll try to find the correct one. And looks like this one again is finding a street lamp, so we can skip it. And try to find one last good one. So here we are. So this one's very clear. That's a great utility pole, lots of wires on it, everything. It's on the street corner here. And we can see on the map that it's on that same street corner before this road, along the road we're traveling on. It's to our left from the camera. So it's perfect because we'll say, I can see the feature. And it just added that to OpenStreetMap for us. Same here, we can see the camera's facing this way. We have the red dot that shows the location of this pole. So that seems right. And then we can go ahead and say, I can see the feature again. And then adds that to OpenStreetMap. So the really great thing here is that we have the ability to quickly add something to the map, and we don't have to actually worry about the, let's see. Okay. We don't actually have to worry about opening up the Mapillary, or sorry, the OpenStreetMap ID editor and physically adding these. If we want to, we can click edit and open ID or JOSM or other. But this one makes it easy to just say, I can see the feature in this location, matches what we see in the photo, and we add it to the map. So this is kind of the end goal that we're working for, but now I'm going to take you working backwards and look at how we can create one of these for yourselves. So we'll go back to the main site here, and that's picforreview.pavier.info. And let me see. I'll open up the chat here. See how everything's looking in the chat. And I'm going to post the link to this in the chat, so you can save that for yourself for later. And here we are. So in this website, you can log in with your OpenStreetMap user ID. So you'll have an account button up here. I'm logged in, that's my OpenStreetMap username. And there's a couple options once you get started. One is to view missions, that's the squares, or the plus sign to create a mission. So if we go to view missions, what we see is missions that people have already created. So for example, here's one for the Philippines, Manila hospital mapping. So this one might show us pictures of a hospital that exists on OpenStreetMap, but it's going to ask us if it has an emergency room. On the other hand, you have things like crossings using a wheelchair. So this is a great one for accessibility. When we click on that challenge, we can see some of the statistics. So we can see the blue icons here are where there is a crosswalk on the street, but it doesn't have any marking on whether or not it's wheelchair accessible. The green ones have already been reviewed, so someone confirmed yes or no. And the gray ones also are areas where there's crosswalks, but no pictures. So if you want to save the locations where the pictures don't exist, you can click Export Missing Pics. And this is going to allow you to save, you can save a GPX file, you can save a GeoJSON file, and these are actually going to then be something you could put on your phone and use it on, say, Osmond or Maps.me as a guide for where you want to go capture pictures in the future. So let's see. I might have frozen that, so I'm going to try to refresh. And I'll wait for that. So that's where we're at so far. Let me see. So if you want, you can go ahead and unmute your mic right now if you have any questions. Anyone here? Okay. So I'm going to try to refresh this and we'll keep moving. Okay, so I've reloaded this challenge. We'll click Start Review. And maybe this one's actually going to continue to freeze on us. So I'll try another one in a new window too. And yeah, the site might be under maintenance. We'll come back to it. The next thing I want to look at is I'm going to talk about data on the Mapillary side. So if you're a Mapillary user, you can visit mapillary.com/app. And so you'll see in green, this is everywhere where an image exists in the world. So let's see, does somebody want to take a look at imagery in their hometown where they're from? If you let me know in the chat, I'll see any special requests. Let's see. Let's see. Is anybody here from, let's see, Ghana perhaps? Natalia, thanks, good question. We'll take a look at that in just a few minutes. This will require some custom action. So here we are in Ghana, and as we zoom in, we can see just the green telling us where there's definitely imagery and then places there's not. So you see, for example, like Cape Coast has a really nice amount just around the village, not much kind of out here in the areas away from the coast, but like these smaller streets are well covered, which is really nice for getting detailed mapping kind of on the urban area. As you hover on the images, you can see just kind of a preview. And then if you want to click on one, it's going to load up in the viewer there and you get to see what it looks like. So you also have the date. So this one's more than 2 years old. So it's good to take note of that. So maybe something you see in the image actually has changed. But if we're looking, for example, at Powerlines, it's good to assume maybe that those are still present now, so it's okay to map them. But make sure you have a little knowledge about what might be changing and not. So up here, you have the map data area. You click on that button. We can turn on the points. And this already suggests a few filtered ones, but what we'll do is kind of turn off all the filters and we get everything. So what we see here are icons that show where Mapillary found different items in the images, and it thinks this is the position on the map. So it tells us we probably have a utility pole here, here, on each side of the road. We have other things like an advertisement, just a regular pole, street lights. So all of these are something that we can actually start to map in OpenStreetMap. The key here is you have to make sure that your area has data requested for it already. So if you go here, click the triple dot button, we can actually click on Edit via ID. This will take us directly to OpenStreetMap in the same area. And then we can check out, since we already know that the map features are activated there, we can activate this layer the same in the ID editor. So it's on the right side. This is the map data menu. It's the F key for short. And then we have Mapillary that turns on the imagery. You can turn that off, but still leave map features on, and you can see what we detected here. It's good to make sure you're using the imagery at the same time, however. So once we're here, we can click on this map feature, the utility pole. And what'll happen is Mapillary will try to load the closest image that has a nice direct camera view of that. So now we can see this orange one is selected. And it looks like we're probably assuming this pole is the one that we see in the picture here. So if we want to add it to the map, we'll click a point here. We'll add a new one, and we'll try to just put it right on top of that pole. But it might be that it's a slightly different position. But this seems pretty accurate. And then we'll go up to point, and we'll map that as a utility pole. So now that exists on OpenStreetMap. I'll turn the map features layer off. We see there's that. Right now, you're going to see them overlapping even after you add it. In the future, we're thinking of a way to maybe make sure it doesn't show after you've added it for sure. And then we'll go down to this next one. And this will answer the question about mapping linear features. So first, we're going to try to add that pole. We'll see if we can get a better picture of it from up front. So as we kind of navigate around here, it's probably, looks like there's a different power line. It's not right here at the intersections of this road is what we're trying to add. It might be a little further down. So for example, we can see this one. And this looks like it's one of the ones right here, kind of near, just past the bushes here. So that's about right as well. So I'm gonna add another point. It's a utility pole. And then we might see, if we wanna just kind of follow these images down the road, as we start on our original one that we added, we can see the power line here. So this image is a little blurry. That's not quite ideal, but we can follow down the road and still see, we can actually see this other pole. So that looks like the one that's detected here. That's really nice. So now we can add that. And then as we continue down the road, we can just see where the wire is still connected. And with better lighting, everything, we can usually see really well, but we can see the wires connected all the way down the street here. So we can actually start to map a line. We'll do this manually, but we can connect along here and call that be a minor power line, since it's just on a post and not on a metal tower. And so now we've started to map the power grid there. If we turn off the Mapillary features, you can see what we've got on the OpenStreetMap data now. And really gives us the chance to make use of that data. We could also make sure to check the photos for any other details we want to add. For example, you could see that there's a wall here, and we might want to add the wall, the power lines partly inside and partly outside of the wall. So that might be really useful to just add the wall. So it's good that we have the street level imagery, see some details of the wall, but we also have the satellite that we can reference. They work really well together. We can also see that there's a gate right here on this wall. We'll come back to this photo on the front. See if we can get a good view of where that gate is. And let's step back a few. Looks like now I'm not seeing where the gate is. We can also see that there's a playground equipment in there. So we can actually guess that's probably this piece and add that to the map. So just a couple of details there that we got all from great street level imagery. 2 years old, so we'd want to make sure we have somebody locally who can validate this, but it's a nice way to make progress on that really quickly. Let's see. So I'm gonna check the chat here for any questions. Oh, okay. Francis, you've got trouble with sound. I hope you can find that. Yeah, and Carlos with the data request. So what happens is we already have map features here. So this is because we had Kwame from Ivory Coast request this a couple weeks ago. But let's go to, let's take another city. I think somewhere where I know the map features are not activated. So we can go to like Monterrey in Mexico. Search worldwide. This is the city. And when we zoom in here, we have still the Mapillary layer and the map features layer activated. So I'll try to check and see if there's somewhere that has Mapillary imagery, but no map features. Let's give it a minute. I may need to check a different city actually. So the key here is if somewhere has no Mapillary images, it's never going to have map features or traffic signs available. So in that case, what you need to do is, if you live there, you want to focus on getting out to actually go capture new imagery. Let me try in Beirut actually. Oops, no. We'll go to another city. So I'll show you, I think Beirut will be good because I know a little more about where the imagery might be here. So we zoom in here, we can see the OpenStreetMap data. Here we can see Mapillary images are loading. So this is a major road in Beirut. We also have map features activated, so they're visible here. Okay, so we're seeing them, I guess, because they've been requested in that area. So that means I think we have to go to another place. Let's say to experiment with places that are not added. Try South Korea. Oops, no. And we'll see if this one is. So the idea is if you don't have the data though, but you do see images, you can click this button over here that says request data. And I'll walk you through it if we make this show us a lack of images or a lack of data. No, it seems to be working there too, that's okay. So if you click this for request data, it's gonna open this new form. And what you'll do is, if you're in Beirut, you can search for your city up here. It'll take you to Beirut. There's a drawing tool on this side, so you can draw a shape. So you might say that you want all data for just kind of like the city center here. That's good. And then you can fill in your information here. So maybe you want to put YouthMappers as part of the organization you're in. It might be that you're in YouthMappers Lebanon. You can share your Mapillary and OSM username, your email, and then just describe your project. So you might say improving OpenStreetMap with local mappers. Things along these lines are really good. Just it gives me an idea when I see this request of what you're working on. And also I can get some more details on how it might be useful to you and just keep in contact. Okay, so let's check the chat. So Medellin, Colombia, perfect. Okay, so we'll try this out. And Francis, I hope you see that clearly then. So you'll open again the side menu, F key for map data, and then there's request data next to map features if you don't see it. And let's take a look if we can find Medellin. Okay, and here we are. Yeah, let's see. I think I'll look it up actually in Mapillary because the geocoder works a little better there. So we'll go Medellin, Antioquia. Zoom in on the city center. I may have already activated some data for Medellin, I think when they were working on some bike projects here. Let's see. So we can see there's imagery on Mapillary clearly. There will be map features. So we'll go to edit via ID again. So this opens the same area in the ID editor. And then we're gonna see if we activate the map features and get, oops, looks like it was the wrong area. So I need to close that, open again. Bug report. Okay. So that one's actually taking us to the wrong place. Try this again. There we go. And go. Okay. So Medellin, go to edit. Let's see, I'll discard my old changes and we'll turn on just the map features first directly to see if we get any data. Let's see what we can come up with. And it looks like they're activated here as well. So good for editing. It might just be a section of the city. I know a request came through and I think it was just for kind of the very center, but there's quite a bit of data available. So it's good to make use of that. And yeah, as mentioned with the line data, so it's something that's not very easy to do from the photos continuously. We've had people ask about mapping bicycle paths, sidewalks, and power lines. And it's certainly something that we've seen some users make experimental tools with, but generally with the power line mapping project in Sierra Leone, the way it's going is recommending to add the utility poles first and then come in and validate via the satellite images if the wires are connecting them, and then add that. And this one you can also see, if we turn on the image layer to show where we're currently located. It looks like we've got a nice bicycle path here too, and that should match this one here. So it's a great way to confirm things like bicycle paths, sidewalks, and you can see the crosswalks here all mapped in as well, matching where the Mapillary crosswalk symbols are. That's a really nice use case. And okay. So let's see. Once we've got that, I want to take a look at how sometimes when we look at things like just the utility poles, sometimes the street lamps, we actually get a false detection. And there's a great way to actually fix this in Mapillary before you go to OpenStreetMap. And this is called the verification tool. So this is one that we're running for Sierra Leone. And what it does is we selected the whole country and we said, find every photo which contains a utility pole and allow us to vote if it's correct in green, incorrect in red, or skip it if you're unsure. So this one, I might say, this is not a utility pole. I'll say no. It's gonna load another picture for me. This one might be. If I click on the image, it'll load me a larger version of it, and then I can see, scrolling to zoom, where exactly it is. And it looks like that is a utility pole to me. So then I can say green, yes. And another one, very obvious, green, yes. This one, a large tower, we might want more context. I can't tell if it's a radio tower or a power line. So I'll skip that one. And same thing there, I'm not really sure. Another one that we'd open large, looks like that's probably a tree out in the distance. So no. And what happens here is you can see you start to get a score, and it tells you in parentheses, this is how many photos you've reviewed. And then 498 here is how many of the times I reviewed something which someone else agreed with me. So the idea is my score is 498, art code's up here is 670. You want to review as many as possible. But in a photo like this, where I see that, okay, we have a tower, might be a utility pole. If I say yes, and more people agree with me, then we have a good idea that it's actually a real detection. And it's good to show that point on OpenStreetMap. If many people are saying no, and they're agreeing that it's not a utility pole, then it suggests to the system that this is a false detection. So then when we go back to OpenStreetMap and we see a utility pole, for example, on this corner, it's going to give us an idea that maybe this isn't here. So after a few people mark the red thumbs down button, it's going to actually not appear on OpenStreetMap anymore, so that you don't have to worry about trying to pull up the photo and find where that's located when it actually doesn't exist anyway. So it's really good to clean the data up for your area before you go in and edit OpenStreetMap. So I'll take you to a next step here that's actually good for handling this kind of action. So when we're on the Mapillary website, up in the top right corner when you're logged in, you'll see your username. You can click that username, it'll expand, tell you some more details about your account. And the important part I want to look at here, I'm going to switch off these points. And I might be causing quite a bit of lag here. I'm going to reload on a new page. But the important thing I want to look at is how you don't only have to use it as an individual, but you can create an organization. This is a really great tool for YouthMappers to organize several people together. So if you click on your username, I have several accounts here that are organizations, but if you have none, you'll see this button plus for new organization. But here's like a test one we can look at. So ICT for Society, this is from Saeed on our team. And he used this in Istanbul. And actually, I think a couple other cities too, probably. So in this case, though, we had a mapathon going on where people were out capturing imagery in Istanbul to try to reference it on OpenStreetMap and map, for example, where wheelchair access is yes or no. So because we have that organization selected, you'll now see this other color here. It's kind of a blue-purple. If you go over to the Uploads button on the Mapillary menu, you'll see there's a toggle for public and for just your organization. So we can turn off the green. Now we can see that this is what we mapped during a mapathon. So we also have examples of the images on the side, but we can just zoom in and we can go ahead and start loading those up. So we'll give that a second to load. There we are. We can click that image. And there we can see that we captured imagery here. And you have things like a bank. We can check if maybe that looks handicap accessible. You know, there's a small step there. We might call that limited. And we can see on the map, this is probably right here in this building. So if we needed to go check OpenStreetMap again, we can click these 3 dots here, edit via ID, and you can pull this up and go ahead and edit the map for something that you saw in the image. So what's nice is in Mapillary's website, though, you can do this filter by only your group. If you go down to the bottom here and you click New Organization, you can type the name of it. So we might say YouthMappers Lebanon. So what happens is when you create this, you are the administrator. So we'll create it. Looks like our org name is too long, so we'll edit that. This is going to be the URL. So we'll say YML for YouthMappers Lebanon and create that. This will now take us to the profile of our organization. So what we can do is we can add things like an icon that represents us, some info about the organization. And if we go on the left here, we can see we're at profile, but we can also go to team. So right now I'm the only one and I'm an admin, but I could start adding other users. So I can add Said to it. I can add Johan to it. And let's add Ed to it as well. And let's see if Madeline's on there. Okay, close enough. So we've got 3 people. What I want to do is, usually I like to keep everyone at least a member. So you can see the different permissions. As if you're a contributor, then when you upload imagery to Mapillary, you can select this organization. If you're a member, you can also view the organization like we just did, where we see the blue, purple map layers. And as an admin, you can manage the organization. So an admin would be able to add new people, would be able to do things like change the information, the bio, and then also do capture projects and data verification, which we'll take a look at. So I've set everyone here as an admin. I'll just make Johan a member, so I don't want him changing any of the settings. I'll say add, and now I can see my team. So for you as a YouthMappers member, you might want to have a group like this that everyone's using in Mapillary. And then at any time you can see what imagery people captured. So part of this is then you can do data verification. So it's set up projects, kind of like the one that you see here. But the first thing you need to do is create a shape. So on map data, say create a shape. A shape is just kind of like your area of interest on the map that you want to focus on. So if we click create on this, what we'll do is we're back on the world map. We can go up here to search and we can say Beirut, and we'll go down to the city of Beirut. Let's see, zoom this in pretty close. And maybe we want to just focus on this area, kind of this part of Beirut. So we'll click draw, proceed. And then once we have this blue button for draw polygon, we click that. We have crosshairs on the map. We'll start drawing very similar to in the request data tool. And we go ahead and draw the shape that we want to focus on there. And then we click finish drawing. Let's see, I think I hit a bug with how I did that. But once you created that, then what you can do is you can go back to your organization and you can create a capture project. So I'll show you another example of how we'll do it. So if you're doing a YouthMappers organization, you'll have the same workflow. I have an organization I call OSMID, and I already have some shapes I added here. So there's lots of different places like Brazil, California, Croatia, there's Ghana. So what I might want to do is click the white button to open my dashboard. So same as we saw before, I can go in and say data verification. I'll create a new project. And we'll call this one crosswalks in Beirut. Or actually, pick another city in this one. We'll do, say, Trento. So this is a city in Italy. Go to next. And it's going to be other objects, so it's not traffic signs. And then we want to search for the name. So I'll say crosswalk plane, and I'll also add lane marking crosswalk. They're just kind of two different ways of showing one, maybe more of a zebra and one is more of just lines on the street. And then we'll say next, public name. Again, I'll call it crosswalks in Trento. And confirm if the crosswalk is visibly painted on the street. And we'll create the project. So what's important to note about this is we're not adding the data to OpenStreetMap yet, but we are going to verify that it's actually existing in the Mapillary photo first. So if we go over here, there's two different classes. We now have this public link for the project we can share. So you can share this with the YouthMappers group, for example. So if I paste that in here, it's going to load this version. So anyone can see this now and help out. So what you'll do is you can say, I want to verify detected objects. And the other version is spot missed objects. So it's important to focus on verifying detected ones. So we'll launch this. And it's going to tell us to check back in a few minutes because it's loading the task. So I think this usually takes probably anywhere from say like 20 minutes to maybe a couple hours, depending how big the area is that you've decided to verify. So it's good to just plan ahead of time, have that set up, and then come back to it. And once it's running, it'll look like this one. Again, so we're here with Powerlines. And the more people you get to contribute to it, the better your data is going to be once you've verified it. It's also going to tell you when we go to project tasks here. So it's back in the menu that we saw. It's going to tell you what % done it is. So we're only 2% done on the utility polls. So when you're 100% done, it's really good to then go edit OpenStreetMap. At 2%, you probably want to make sure you've done more verification first. Okay. So anybody have any questions up to now? I'll go ahead and see. Yeah, you go ahead and unmute yourself and ask a question if you've got any. Okay, so we'll keep moving forward. Again, go ahead and drop anything in the chat if you have any questions you want to ask there too. So discard bad photos. Yeah. So Talia will show you. I'll find an example photo of my own. So one of the important things is you can delete your own photos. But if you want to delete somebody else's, you only send a request. What I suggest is if you see somebody else's photo, so if I see this one by Clipper and it has a problem, like maybe it's blurry, it's dark, it's just not good. What I recommend is to go ahead and just comment on the photo and say, bad photo quality, something like this, please delete, and encourage the user who owns it to actually delete it first. That's a good way to handle it. If it's one of my own, so I'll show you some examples. So I might have one, I'm sure I have plenty that I can delete here. So here I have some where I was like on a driveway on the side of the road. There's a lot of duplicates here. So if I don't like this one, I want to remove it. On the Mapillary website, I go to image options and I say edit current sequence. And then I can say delete image here. And then it asks me if I'm sure, or I can go to the next image if I want to delete that too, and I'll click delete again. So now it has 2 changes. If I go to a third one, you can see these are all duplicates, delete. I'll keep doing that. And then when I'm ready, I can say submit. And then I think within about a day, you should see these ones would disappear, the ones you selected. If you wanted to delete the whole sequence too, This one's actually a pretty good sequence, so I won't want to get rid of all of it. But you can select edit current sequence again. And instead of delete image down here at the bottom, you can just say delete sequence and then submit that. And then up in the top right, you can exit the editor. If you find the photo in the ID editor, so like here, if you just click on the username, it'll open it in Mapillary, and then you can go ahead and try to comment it or add the delete message. So otherwise, there's no delete button in OpenStreetMap for that. But it's very quick to just pull that up in Mapillary. So hopefully that's helpful. Okay. So let's go back to the organizations. If you're a JOSM user, what's really nice is you can now select that organization in your JOSM editor. So my screen's a little small here, but I have the latest Mapillary for JOSM plugin, which was just released yesterday. And you can go down here into the Mapillary filters, and you can select your organization. So in the same way, I can pull up and I can see this ICT for Society one. So if I'm in Istanbul, then what will happen is it will start to only show my images. Once I click update here, it'll only show my map images that are from that organization. So it's really nice if you have a mapathon and you go out and collect images in the street, then you can upload them. You can go back, edit OpenStreetMap once they're uploaded and only see your images. So the next thing I want to cover that relates to the organizations is how to actually upload with Mapillary. So what we're seeing here is we see how to create an organization. That's how you can gather lots of people who are using Mapillary together. We see how you can edit it on the map, even tie it into Pick for Review. But one of the connecting pieces is making sure that you upload correctly. So we have the Mapillary uploader that's for your desktop computer. This is a really good tool to use. If you have the mobile phone app, so on like an Android phone, it's the Mapillary app, you can already directly upload your photos from that app. So as long as your internet connection is active, you can upload it there. And I can try to give an example of that. But when you click upload on the mobile app, it's going to ask you if you want to upload as an individual, or even capture as an individual when you start capturing, or by the organization. So it's very similar to here. It'll be by default your individual username, but you can click on the drop down to select an organization. So if you create a YouthMappers group for your local community, they'll start seeing it in the mobile app, and they can select to upload to that group. If you're collecting images with something like a GoPro, or even just taking the images from your phone onto your computer, then when you come to the desktop uploader, what you can do is you'll go to the folder where your images are. So maybe this folder, and all you have to do is click and drag that folder, and it's going to drop it into this this program. It's going to scan all the images that you have in that folder, and then it's going to visualize where they are before you upload them. So right now I'm signed into my individual username, and if we go ahead and click cancel here, it'll go back to the main menu. And maybe I want to actually upload these to my ICT for Society one. So again, I could do that, can come back. Maybe I just want to select a few of the photos. So maybe like these first, maybe 20 or so. I can click and drag that group. Looks like, oh, no, we have to actually drop the folder. That's okay. So I'll drop that folder to here again. It's going to scan the imagery, and it'll give us a preview. So we'll let that run for a minute. It's telling me it's already uploaded. So I uploaded these probably a month ago. So that's good. If I hadn't uploaded them, then it's going to show me a map of those images, and then I'll just click upload and send them. So it's really nice because you can, again, select your organization and then upload to it. And then if you're in JOSM, for example, you can find that organization filter here, and you can go ahead and view your images on the map only from your Mapathon. And then again, the same once you're in the actual Mapillary organization or Mapillary web app here, you can do the same thing, clicking on your username, and then go down and find that organization and load your example images. So I highly recommend this for anybody who wants to capture as a group. And I think we'll be looking at having a nice filter for those organizations once you get into the ID editor here too. So you can see in this example, it's a lot of imagery to look at. It's difficult to actually see maybe like what image you need to view. So if you can filter it down by just your group, I think that that makes it a little easier for everybody. Okay. Does anybody have any questions at this time? Let's see. Let me go with. Yeah, if you have questions right now, go ahead and make sure you unmute your microphone and then ask away. Okay. So overall, there's no further questions. Just the things I want to go ahead and make sure I leave you with is, one, everything that you're going to do with Mapillary will start with the Mapillary website. So it's mapillary.com. And everything else is going to be on the Mapillary mobile app. And those are your best tools to get started with, one, capturing images, two, managing an organization for you and your community, and three, doing things like data verification projects that will help you make sure you have high quality data. So once you're done capturing, make sure you remember the second step is coming in and doing the, as we said, data verification, like these utility polls, and then also coming into OpenStreetMap and doing some editing. And remember that the verification of that data first always helps get better data in OpenStreetMap. It's not totally required, but it helps make sure you don't have duplicates or false data here. And of course, you always have the opportunity to view your imagery on the Mapillary layer of the ID editor, as well as in JOSM. And then again, if you're looking for more specific tools, the JOSM tools here are a great way to get started with focusing on adding specific items to the map. So maybe it's crosswalks, maybe it's Powerlines. And remember, if you click the missions tab here on the Pick for Review, you're going to be able to see existing missions that other people have created. And when you want to create your own, what you're able to do is use a template. So I recommend this for getting started. You can just use these existing ones, like adding streetlights, pictures of the shops that already exist, but it'll ask you to type in the name, many others along those lines. So I highly recommend that. If you're looking for a more advanced mission, you can do from scratch. And I recommend exploring that and trying to see if you can make it work for you. You can take a quick look at it. So one thing I recommend is first you'll start with your area. So go back to Medellin in this case. And it's kind of a really big area, so we'll go a bit smaller, but depends on what you're interested in mapping. So if you drag or click Control on your keyboard and then drag over the map, we can kind of focus on the center here. Maybe we want to do just a specific neighborhood. So it really depends again on how much you're trying to get done. But we'll choose this area. We can click this third option, automatic detection from pictures. This is going to reference Mapillary. And what we can look for is, a good one will be, let's say pedestrian crossing is a good one. You can preview it. It's going to try to pull all the pedestrian crossings for this area and show them on the map. I'm going to skip past that. We can have a mission name. So we can say crosswalks in Medellin. And Natalia, can you remind me how you'd say that in Colombia? Let's see. Cebras, okay. So instead we could just say Cebras in Medellin if you want to make sure that's localized. So a lot of people tend to write the name of the challenge in Italian, Japanese, like whichever community they're coming from. That's totally acceptable. And a lot of these, you could call it transport, road, I'd say accessibility. And what we'll do is import external data. So this means you're going to be adding data from the Mapillary API. And then again, we can write this in Spanish if we need to. We could do Spanish or English. So I'll just write in English, confirm if the crosswalk exists and add it to the map. And then what we'll do is say next. And it's just reminding us that it's going to add highway equals crossing to OpenStreetMap if we confirm that it exists. Conflation distance, it's going to check if crosswalks already exist on OpenStreetMap within a certain distance and going to ask us if it's the same or different. So I think 50 is a good distance there. And then what we do is we say next. This is the confirmation page, and we'll click publish. So the next part that happens is it's going to take probably something like an hour. Right now it's going to load. So we'll take a look at a similar mission here again. But this is a great way to just have focused editing. And overall, it's a great way to kind of remove all the pain of searching through the ID editor and trying to find something on OpenStreetMap. And instead it just presents you directly with the item you're looking for. So here's one we made just a couple weeks ago from Cape Coast for YouthMappers. Pedestrian crossings from photos. So you can see there's 16 of them to review. There's 7 with no pictures. And you can get started on checking those 16 out. We're loaded up here. And so what we see is, let's change the base map here. We can look on, depends which layer is going to load well. Maybe we want to try OpenStreetMap to start. So it's telling us it thinks there's a crosswalk here, has our photos here, and it's asking us if we can confirm if one exists. And from these photos, I can't see anything, so I'll click skip. So here's another one. This might be one on the road. You can check a few photos. So here we are. It looks like we're right on top of it. And there it is. So if we're going to add that as a crosswalk, might also be a speed bump. But what we can do is we could either confirm the location it shows on the map. If we can get a satellite view, maybe it'll help us get some more context. The satellite layer doesn't want to load. Here we go. Too hard to see there. So you can see why the street level is really nice to have because the satellite's not showing much. But finally, what we'll do is we can take, oops, click the X here. Yeah. So once we've clicked the red button, we can drag this blue icon and we can say it's actually probably more like right here. You can see that's where maybe a path is meeting with the road. So I can then click the blue check, confirm that's where I want to add it. I can see the feature, and now it's added to OpenStreetMap. And very similar in these other ones. I can start to see the zebra crosswalk here on the side. From this angle, it's over there. It's a really difficult one to see. If none of these photos seem to be helpful for me, I can click the plus sign, and it's going to load more photos. So now I might want to check these nearby ones. That one doesn't seem to help very much. This one does. So there's that crossing right in the middle. Again, you might want to edit the location of it. Looks like it's before this driveway. It's about right there. I can see the feature. Oops. Click the check mark, and then I can see the feature that's edited. So really powerful tool there. I highly recommend setting up a test of pick for review somewhere that you've captured the images. And you don't have to do any requesting of data, nothing like that. just as long as the photos exist there, then it's a perfect place to get started. And if you're staying home right now with the coronavirus, keeping everybody on lockdown, this is a really great way to actually still make use of your Mapillary and still edit OpenStreetMap. And it doesn't require you to go capture new images right now. So you can make use of everything you've captured in the past up until now, and allows you to do it all from behind the computer. Okay. Anybody have any final questions before we wrap up? Great. Okay. Well, thanks for attending, everybody. We're going to have the recording available within a couple of days, so you can go ahead and share it with your communities if you want anybody to use this for training. If you want to contact me, my email is here in the chat. So it's just Christopher@mapillary.com. So you can always send a message there, or if you have any general OSM questions, you can send it to osm@mapillary.com also. We're happy to take any questions you have and give you any advice. Okay. Other than that, take care, everyone. Thanks a lot for attending, and hope to see you another time for a similar event. Take care.